Thank you for listening to the Living Zen-podcast. If you've been listening for a while and are wondering how you can take the next step in developing your own Zen practice, or how you can more formally connect with our community, please explore our online Orientation to Zen practice, which you can find on our website at zenwest.ca. If you enjoy the resources that we make available online, we would very much appreciate your support. There are a number of ways that you can help us continue to do the work we do. One of the best ways is by becoming a part of our community as an associate. Your commitment of $10 a month will ensure that offerings like the Living Zen-podcast, eZendo, and our online Orientation to Zen will continue to be available around the world to everyone with an interest in truly living Zen. To become an associate, please visit our website at zenwest.ca and click on Become an Associate. Many more Zen Talks are available for purchase on iTunes and at Amazon.com. Just search for Venerable Eshu Martin. These talks are also made available for free on our website for all of our members and associates. You may also want to download the Living Zen Podcast app, which makes downloading and listening to the podcast effortless. Thank you for your support, and thank you for listening to Living Zen. When the Buddha had his great awakening, it said that he exclaimed, "Wonder of wonders, fundamentally we are all already awake, but we don't realize it." All of Zen practice, everything that we're doing here, all of this form, all of this sitting, all of these guidelines and rules, all of these talks, all of these interactions, everything that we do here is focused at realizing this fundamental awakening. In Zen, when a person comes to practice, particularly I think in our culture, we have a particular relationship with spiritual practice, religion. And oftentimes we come looking for answers. So when we take up practice and we listen to a person in a fancy robe giving a talk, we want to get answers for the questions that have been bothering us, the things that we've wondered about. We want to know how we can live our life in a better way. But if we're looking for a manual or a sort of handbook on how we can go about doing that, Buddhism doesn't really offer us one. All I can do, and all of the Buddhist masters since time immemorial offer are suggestions, observations, experiences that have been realized or felt, awakenings, if you like, that have been experienced by these individual people. And they've been kind enough, generous enough to share them. But it is not your place in a zendo, in a Zen center, to come and believe those things. What we do here, this practice that we engage in, why we bother to take people aside and teach them how to sit in a still, straight way, why I bother to make corrections and say, sit still, breathe quietly. It's because this practice, this simple practice of seated meditation, zazen is what we call it in Zen, jhana, dissolution, dissolving. This is our laboratory. The practice that we do is aimed at awakening. And in order to awaken, we have to have some awareness. We have to be able to observe, to investigate, to consider, to experience the activity that is unfolding in front of us. This activity that we call our life. But for most of our lives, we're asleep. Most of our lives, we've got this sort of track going on in our heads or in our hearts. In every situation that we find ourselves in, we have this sort of habitual pattern that we play so that we don't have to get all that engaged in our lives. We can continue to be busy with our thoughts. When we go into a store, when we wake up in the morning, when we go through our morning routine, or when we go to our classes or to our job, we have this series of scripts that we work off all day long. And we know the scripts. So we don't actually have to be present all that much. And from time to time, something happens. A sudden noise. Someone cuts in front of us. Somebody says something very kind, or someone plants a kiss on our lips, and suddenly we arrive in our lives for a moment. Complete. Totally present. And it's exhilarating. And it's terrifying. And it's wonderful. And it's all of these things. But before we can even fully grasp what's just happened, already the noise starts back. The habits start back. How quickly can we get back to the old routine? That moment, with all of its wonder, is also pretty terrifying. So we want to hide back behind all of our habits, behind all of our conditioning. Where do we go when we want to investigate this moment, this dynamic moment? This moment where just for an instant we were really alive. This moment where we were actually present with the dynamic unfolding of our lives. That's what we're doing when we take up this posture. That's why we come together in a group. Many people will say, oh, it's easier to sit when we come together as a group. Exactly. It's easier to take up this posture, to bring ourselves fully into this room. It's easier to pay attention to what's happening when we minimize the stuff that we add to what's happening. From the outside, you could look in this room, maybe some people do, and think, boy, that looks like utter boredom to me. But the more we sit, the more we fully bring ourselves into the unfolding activity of this moment, through our own stillness, through our own presence, we begin to be able to see that even as we sit here, in this moment, still and quiet, paying attention to our breath, the glorious unfolding of this entire universe is taking place around us, within us, through us. There's nothing more exciting in the universe than just to sit here and be with that. The more we're able to enter into this simple practice, just sitting, the more we're able to pay attention, the more we're able to know, not just intellectually, but viscerally, experientially, when we're making this transition between being present, being awake in our lives, and being asleep, just riding along on our habit energy. The reason that we mix things up here, the reason that we have seated meditation and walking meditation, is because after a while, we begin to develop an ability to be present as we sit. And this is wonderful. But our practice here isn't just to become wonderfully present sitters, really wakeful rocks. We want to be able to take this out into our world. What does it mean? What's it like? What impact, what transformation is created through the activity of living awake? But we don't move from crawling on the ground to sprinting. So we take up this simple activity, things like walking. How can we enter into the activity of movement, physical movement, and be awake? Well, you can see, even in this little 5-minute walking meditation that we do, that each of us, this simple instruction, keep in step, stay close behind, don't cut the corners. And within 5 minutes, all of us can see that there are moments where we just get off. We drift off into the mental busyness and we look down at our feet and, oh, we're out of step. And, oh, that person's awfully far away. Oh, I just completely zoned out. And we engage in this practice of dissolving back in, harmonizing back in with the dynamic activity that's taking place in this moment. The activity of chanting is no different. Speech. How do we use our voices when we're awake? There's a lot going on when there's chanting. There's a rhythm. There's a volume. There are words on a page, and we chant them. And we find that even in this, our minds come into it. What is this I'm chanting? What would so-and-so think if they saw me? And we see the impact of that busy, habitual energy on how we're able to harmonize with what we're doing, with what's happening in the room around us. The practice over and over again here, whether we're sitting, whether we're walking, whether we're chanting, whether we're bowing, whether we're serving tea, whether we're receiving tea, is always focused at one thing. Wake up. Over and over again, wake up. And this is not just a one-time thing. I think that many people think when we come to practice Buddhism that I will have an awakening object. Tell me, when you woke up this morning, was it final? Are you now awake for the rest of your life? No. Maybe some of you are asleep right now. But don't worry, you'll wake up again. And this is the practice of our whole lives. In each and every moment, in each and every situation, we find ourselves moving back and forth, now being aware of what we're doing, now just following the way we've always done it, completely asleep. Now realizing that we've been asleep and waking up again. Now finding something difficult and hiding out in what's comfortable. Now realizing that we've been hiding out and showing our faces again. For many people, this process of awakening just doesn't happen. Muman, a famous Zen master, says, most people are just like ghosts clinging to bushes and weeds. And this is how we can spend our lives, just moving from one habit to the next, doing things the way that they've always been done, avoiding what is uncomfortable and pursuing what we think will make us more comfortable. But that's not what we're here for. That's not why we came tonight. This is not why we listen to these teachings or take up this practice, we are here to wake up. Each and every moment, each and every opportunity, in each and every environment and each and every relationship. Wake up. I hope that each and every one of you will take this to heart and bring this practice of awakening into every moment of your lives. Hai. Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.